Enough stalling. Let's fucking do this. Ugh. As per my usual, 1 and 2. And I gotta figure out what the hell's going on with the moisture in this notebook. God, it's all making my notes faded. Ugh. Luckily, I can still read that. So, Trails in the Sky 3, or Trails in the Sky the Third, if you prefer. I was kind of excited to go into this one after Sky 2. I'm not gonna lie. Hey about that, because I was like, yeah, Sky 3, this is gonna be awesome. And admittedly, it was. It absolutely was. Sky 2 had a lot of great story beats to it. Uh, you know, some of which I didn't even cover, like, for example, the special ops guys, right? Colonel Richard and all that. Sky 2 had a lot of great story beats and some really good gameplay elements. Until you got to Chapter 8 and then it sucked, but... except for Chapter 8, the gameplay was solid and the story was phenomenal. I have to admit I don't like this game. So, gameplay-wise, I don't like this game. I like... I like... I like the story beats. I do. I want to just say that flat out, right? The story beats are fantastic, right? Kevin's arc, um, all the stuff to do with Reese, Rufina, all of the stuff to do with, each of the different side stories. All of that is great stuff. The problem is that I think what we were seeing was, and I hate myself for saying this, but it felt like there was no real evolution of the combat system. As I will be gushing from my perspective tomorrow with Trails of Cold Steel 1, I will be gushing about all of the little touches that they did for Cold Steel, which may or may not have been in the Crossbell games, one of which one of my viewers confirmed for me on stream was not the Crossbell games, to just improve the gameplay experience, to give me a turn-based RPG that I could really sink my teeth into, a combat system that I really, really, really enjoy. Like playing Cold Steel 1 is just joy, right? Cold Steel 3 felt like I was pulling teeth from a gameplay perspective. And yet, the teeth pulling was worth it because of all of the amazing everything that was the story of this game. A viewer that was on the stream, Anaxi, shouts to them, came in and said that compared to Kevin, Joshua's backstory was just a little bit of a bad day. Yeah, I'm gonna say he was right on that because, good lord, but we'll get into that later. Now, let's get the negative parts out of the way first. Let's talk about the gameplay. I don't like the boss battles. I'll just start there. I find like the boss battles just kind of okay. Admittedly, this was kind of true with the previous two games, but it was cranked up to 11 here in this one. The enemies adore slamming you with status effects. And I hate it. Like, it got to the point where I legitimately, from my perspective yesterday, I know it's weird, but from my perspective yesterday, I slammed out an 8-hour stream just to get this done. Because, to be honest with you, I was starting to get sick and tired of playing this game. Which I know sounds like I'm damning the game, like just punching the game in the dick, and let's be blunt, I am punching this game in the dick from a gameplay perspective. I will also be probably doing that. Well, actually, I'll be doing that to one aspect of Cold Steel 2 when we get there. But yeah, no, the bosses were just irritating, and they constantly were like, here, we're going to inflict status effects on you because that's our difficulty. Some people talk about cheap difficulty, and when they talk about cheap difficulty, they talk about it in terms of, um, you know, the lazy difficulty, right? More health, more stats. The Oblivion slider, I believe, is the term most people use for that. And okay, fair. That is lazy difficulty. You don't want to know what cheap difficulty is? Screw you, you can't move, now die. And that's what a lot of the bosses felt like to me. Give me a sec to consult my notes quickly here. Yeah, Darkbringer was a boss that I was like, seriously, that can go to hell. There were other ones where I was just like, I did not want to bother at that point because I was just because at that point I was just like, okay, let's get this over with already. That actually came in terms of the final dungeon and the gauntlet of the final four battles, right? We'll talk positively in a minute because there's one other thing because I mentioned the doors. There's side stories all over the place in the form of these doors. You bring the correct character or characters with you in your party to that door, and that door will go ahead and open, and then you will be granted a memory fragment and a blessing. They call it, right? You will receive a memory fragment and my blessing, right? Usually that's in the form of Mira. Sometimes that's in a new move. For example, complete Orbital Gear Part 2 when you finally get Agate, and Tita will have access to a craft known as the Orbital Gear. In other words, she can summon the Orbital Gear boss that you fight when you go into that door. So that's cool when you have Agate in the party, right? Uh, the problem is sometimes you get really, really cool ones. Uh, like for example, like because some of them are mini games, right? One of them was really, really fun, the Josette door, and one of them literally pissed me off to the point where I was yelling so loud that my roommates could not hear me. It could not hear the TV over me. For the record, I had my door closed, not tightly, admittedly, but I had my door closed, and they were all the way over there, which is like, I'm a horrible judge of feet, but it's like basically go out that door, walk down the hall, then turn right, go down the hall, and it's like a big open living room right there. I was so loud they could not hear their TV, which is loud even at volume 1. By the way, it's one of those ones where you swear you're at volume 20 when you're only at volume 1. Kind of scenario. I mean, I'm sure some of you have encountered TVs like that. And I was yelling because I was so fucking pissed off at it. That, for the curious, was ultimate or legendary angler Estelle. I always want to say ultimate angler, but no, it's legendary angler Estelle. Because it boils down to the fact that fishing in the Sky games sucks dick. Because, see, here's the problem. It's all RNG. yes, you can pick your rod, you can pick your rod, pick your bait, all of that. The problem is that it seems to be very random. Yes, you technically are supposed to hit it when the exclamation mark hits, but it feels very finicky of when it does, because sometimes what it'll do is you'll hit the button and you'll miss, and you swear you hit it at the right time, because it's all about the timing. A similar issue could be said about the recent Metroid Dread, for example, right? Countering the Emmys, which I know is part of the point. You're not supposed to engage with the Emmys, blah 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 blah, right? But by the time you've seen the freaking Emmy death animation like 50 times, it starts to get a little agitating. And to be honest with you, I hate minigames that rely very heavily on RNG, and I just realized I didn't look up something, so I'm going to do that as I keep talking. Okay? Okay. Anyways, the other part of the problem, actually, it'd be better if I did it on here. So there's going to be a bit of a glare. Please forgive me. I need to look up something because I am SMRT smart today. But yeah, no, I was so mad, so fucking mad at Legendary Angler Estelle. Like it was stupid how freaking angry I got. Like, oh, you think the vitriol I spat at frickin' Agate and Sky One was bad? Oh God, the 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 um the vitriol I spat at frickin' whatchamacallit. The vitriol I spat at Legendary Angler Estelle was so bad because again it was RNG and it's an RNG competition. So yeah, that's kind of part of the problem, right? So yeah. So Sky I1 starts out in 1202 September calendar. So we're gonna go ahead and shift all the way to the third to double check. It's not gonna tell me. Well, shoot. Well, shoot. Because I wanted to look up the timeline. 9 for how long it had been, because I think they say it's been like what, a year since or it was either a year or half a year since Weissman's defeat, which for the record was like 3 months after the end of Sky 2, right? So there's that. But I digress. Wonder if Trails from Zero will tell me. Give me a sec. It will not tell me. Because why would it? Great. Okay. Hey. Okay. No, it's not going to tell me. Anyways, sorry about that. I just wanted to look that up, and it's all a fail. So, but to get back on track, heck, yeah, I don't like Legendary Angler Estelle. It was really dumb. Which is funny because, in contrast, Josette's Door, that was actually kind of a fun mini game to try and aim at at, at Gilbert. Yeah, Gilbert is a reoccurring character in this game, and he's basically played up as comic relief, and it fails, like, across the board. But we can get into that more when we get to the story. So yeah, I love the trial doors. Uh, I will say this: as much as I was like just at the point of being drained, I actually didn't mind the final dungeon and the final boss gauntlet. It was daunting, but man, was it satisfying when I brought down the specifically the red dragon boss, the red Ragnar, with my absolute weakest party. I think I took that one down with like Shara. What was it? It was Shara, Kevin. Shit, who was with Shara? Okay, looking it up. Forgive me a moment. This will not take me very long, because all I need to do is go to my external hard drive and check the VOD. Because, of course, that's all I need to do. Okay. Ah, shut up past me. Nobody wants to hear you. Because I can just seek. Let's see. Nope. Back up a bit. Wasn't that one? Right. It was Shara, Annalise, He's Josette, and Richard was the party that took on the Red Ragnar. It was a pain. Needless to say, it was a pain to deal with. Like, no question. No joke, no question. It was just insane to try and deal with. I had a lot of game overs with that specific party. Give me a moment. Yeah, it was nuts. It was nuts to have to deal with that. So, the boss gauntlet was fun to deal with. I'll close that now. The boss gauntlet was fun to deal with, but it nevertheless, god damn it, but it nevertheless was. It was just a fun final boss fight. As much as I disliked the actual final boss, the gauntlet was actually a nice touch, and I thought it worked. Worked for what it was. Except for the audio balance on the way to the final dungeon. Which, thankfully, as far as I'm aware, is not a problem that we're going to be running into with the gold steels. And we didn't run into that in Sky 1, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, I don't think there was any big CG cutscene that led us into that, so. And I think that the same can be said about Cold Steel 1, but that's good because, God, I hated the audio balancing. It was frustrating in 2, and it was terrible in 3, so meh. Also, I love the Garden Hub. It's a really cool hub world. It's and is there anything else gameplay wise I want to talk about? The monochrome school was a nice idea. I had to look up how to beat that one, but it was still cool. Um, I loved the battles with Graham, Karna, Kurt, and Kilika. Those were cool. The fight with Cassius was fantastic. We'll talk about that more. Like, okay, I shouldn't say it was fantastic, but yeah, it was kind of cool. I also like that after when Kevin's character arc reaches its peak, his victory quotes change, right? Because his victory quotes in the early game are, "All right, what's next?" Next are, "Yeah, not bad," or and stuff like that. Yeah, they're cocky. When he completes his character arc, well, I should say completes, but when he's like on the precipice of completing his character arc, he talks much more serious. Well done, and stay alert. This isn't over, and sorry, but you had to die. By the way, when the Phantom of Kevin's mother, when I fought the Phantom of Kevin's mother, I'm kind of glad that that was the victory quote I got. Because it was so fitting. Also, this is the first. Did I write it down specifically? No, I didn't write it down specifically. Eh. Oh well. But that's actually probably what I can use the cube for. The cube for. This is the first Trails game to have fast travel in it. Let me repeat that. The third Trails game, well, the third game we got in the West, is so technically, by technical definitions, the eighth Trails game, Legend of Heroes game, is the first one to have fast travel. Hard to facepalm when you have a headset that's falling off your head. But yeah, no, that is pathetic. That is beyond pathetic that it took them 3 goddamn games. Oops. 3 goddamn 3 goddamn games to get fast travel into the game. Yeah, that's part of the reason why it was such a weird experience going backwards from Cold Steel 3. I think it was Cold Steel 3 to Sky 1. That's insane. It was insane, the contrast. Now, admittedly, Sky 1 and Sky 2 were both designed around not having fast travel because they had kind of a flow to their to their storylines and how they structured things. So, in the interest of fairness, there was actual reasoning behind the decisions involved. So, that's good. That's good design. This game would have sucked so fucking hard without fast travel. So I am glad they implemented it. Hell, they even came in with a actual in-lore explanation for the points you fast travel to, namely the monuments that are all over the place, which also act as recovery points and shops. By the way, I got almost all the way through in upgrading everyone's slots and equipment. I had to. I failed to upgrade, I think, 4 or 5 characters slots, which again does the whole your max EP, which is basically your MP, kind of a thing. So yeah. There's also the support stats. So basically, when you get more than 4 party members, in other words, when you recruit. Did I write it down in the order? I did not. But effectively, the order was kind of interesting in how kind of weird it was, admittedly, because I think it went Tita, then I think it was Julia, then Vander, then Josette. That I think, right? And then after Josette, I believe it was Chloe. Then I think we unlocked Joshua, and I was shocked as hell when that happened. Then I should have written down the order, and then all of that. Now, granted, I literally have a note. Tita from out of nowhere. Not that I'm complaining, mind you, because I was surprised I was gonna get Tita so early. And granted, Tita remained useful even into endgame. So that worked. Whew. So yeah, I wasn't talking about. I didn't finish talking about the support stats. So everybody has basically different attributes that they can, which are basically modifiers. Basically, they are. Think of them as basically a bonus accessory. History, right? Some characters will give you a boost of a percentage. Will boost like your art strength and art's defense, but you'll take a ding in defense or something like that, right? And the dings are not actually that much. They're usually only like 5%, which is not bad, admittedly, right? So that's pretty cool. Also, the Abyss is actually, which I think I actually wrote down a note for. Yes, Abyss is actually a really awesome. It is a really awesome optional dungeon that you get to at the final, in the final thing, so that's good. I already talked about the victory quotes. Notes. We travel through Gehenna, which is awesome. Which is actually a pretty cool dungeon. Let's. But is there anything else I want to? Oh, right. And so the support stats, basically, you can modify. You got mutators, basically, right? Do you want to trade in a bit of defense for some arts strength and arts defense? Do you want to trade in some defenses for some attack? You know, that kind of thing. And it's actually really fun to play around with. For the most part, I ended up using Josette, but that was mostly for the fact that she provides you with 30% boost to your Septive gain and item drops. So I was gaining items left, right, and center. Talked about the garden hub. Talked about the cube. Okay, two more things to talk about, and they're literally, and it literally bookends the game. The first that I want to talk about is actually, well, since I'm going to be talking about the story in order, let's start with the final dungeon. I love how the final dungeon is structured because it forces you to use all 16 of your characters. Now, again, this bit me in the ass with Shara's group that I mentioned earlier. Shara, Elise, and Josette, and Richard. But what I love about what I love about, excuse me, yeesh, come on, buddy, yeesh. This is why I'm not doing that reaction right now. Anyways, you know, like despite that, if I had swapped the party members around, I probably would have been okay, right? Granted, it's also because I hate myself for saying this, but in my blunt opinion, that is actually a weak setup, and those are also the four weakest characters in the game, in my opinion. And they certainly were in my file. Like, holy crap, were characters leveling up like madmen in the final dungeon. Like, it was almost ridiculous how fast characters were leveling up in the final dungeon. You know, I'm pretty sure there was like one group. I want to say it was Chloe's group, which I consisted of Chloe, Julia, Olivier, and Mueller, and that group, I swear, had characters leveling up, like gaining like the quad 9x, which is the max x you can gain from one battle, in like 2 or 3 battles. Which for the record is like, God, I want to say like 5 or 6 levels. Yeah, it's that ridiculous. Like, no character. Okay, I'm pretty sure no character ended the game at less than 130. Like, for their level. I don't think that any of the characters managed. Excuse me. I don't think any of the characters got away without getting to at least 130, which is about what I beat the game at. Now, the level cap is supposedly 150. Now, I imagine that that's kind of a Legend of Dragoons situation. You know, around level 30, you'll have a decent challenge with the final boss. Level 40, or level like 35, okay, you know, he still might be a little bit of a challenge if you don't know what you're doing, but you should be fine. And at level 40, you're basically just curb stomping him. And my phone is about to die, so I'm going to put it on the charger while I keep talking, right? So the final dungeon is really cool. It makes you utilize all your characters, and it makes it so that you don't have one team, and then all your other characters just get told to sit on the sidelines and twiddle their thumbs, right? Everybody contributes to the final battle, and I like that. It's also something that I enjoyed about the finales um, of Cold Steel. I want to say Cold Steel 2 and Cold Steel 3, and I count. By the way, I count the Infernal Castle from Cold Steel 2 as the true finale because the actual final dungeon can go to fucking hell. Anyways, but what I don't want to go to hell is actually this final dungeon because I think this final dungeon, Rufina's Castle, spoilers, is awesome. You know what else is awesome? To segue into story with a bit of gameplay. Kevin's infiltration of that Erebonian airship. The fact that I recognize Croydon Province and the Reinford Company was just something that I liked. By the way, when we get to Olivier Mueller's door, expect to hear that again because guess who? The true villain of this string of Trails games makes his on-screen debut. Which is funny because he either has his first appearance here if he appears in the Crossbell games, then that's his first on-screen appearance, or it's Cold Steel 1. But of course, he's a major player of the Cold, more so of the Cold Steels than any of the other games, so that makes a degree of sense. But yeah, no, Kevin infiltrates, and so he's masked. He's kind of got his hair, uh, like in his portrait, he's kind of got his hair slicked back. Heck, and so effectively he's incognito. And so this woman kind of comes over and is like, "Ooh, you seem like a dashing man. I would like to get to know you." And it's like, "Yes, but I have something I must attend to first. Yes, please excuse me." And then he kind of laments that he has to leave her behind because, again, Kevin is a shameless flirt. So he takes this artifact from a dude, and I love the fact that I'm like, when he jumped out of the airship, I was like, at the end of the infiltration, I was like, Kevin? And then an airship catches him. I'm like, oh, okay. I was going to say, I hope you have an airship. But yeah, no, he did, so he thought ahead. And then. And then there was the gameplay. I love how Kevin doing that solo just works because he's just taking out the guys in like one or two hits. I think I literally said to this one party that came after me, I was like, I two-shotted your doggo. Come on. So yeah, but it was an awesome sequence and a great way to introduce Kevin. And apparently, the Lord of Phantasma was there somehow. Wait, what? But I digress. Okay. So then we're introduced. So then Kevin goes to get the cube, and this is where we're introduced to Tita's mother, Erica Russell. I'm not a fan of overprotective parents. I admit I am iffy about Tita's parents because I think Tita's parents are okay. but I do feel like they do need to be kind of smacked a bit. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, of them, but we can speak of that in a bit. So the cube activates, and thus, as oh look, sorry, Erica, but we're taking the cube with us. Then we meet up with Reese Argent, or as I like to call her because of voice actor illusions, Templar Rukia, because she uses a Templar sword. It's kind of funny in its own right. Hey. But yeah, no, it actually works, which is funny because there's two Sky. That means there's two Sky characters voiced by Michelle Ruff. Huff. There's, uh, there's Reese and there's also Shara. By the way, Michelle Ruff will continue to voice Shara up until Cold Steel 4, or I guess in Cold Steel 4, because I don't think she makes another appearance before that. So then they get whisked away to Phantasma. And so they basically have to go and get the sealing stones to unlock different characters, which is where Tita shows up. And like I said, it was like out of freaking nowhere that was the first person that I found. Not that I'm complaining about that, but yeah. So then we encounter the trail doors, and Tita goes and deals with her trial, and then gets an hour-long cutscene. It's actually really cool because the bulk of the content, in my opinion, here is the side doors. But of course, I'm never going to experience every single door uh, until I can figure out some kind of tweak or workaround or something, or a save edit maybe, or a mod or something to just cheat my way through that because God, I hate the fishing. But anyways, so yeah, I love the character development that's shown there too. It's great. Orbital Gear is such a great one. We'll talk about part two of it a bit later because I want to go and order my notes here. So then we start encountering phantom versions of different things. The RSL, the town of Grand Seal, the Bobcat, and Grand Seal Castle. Yeah, it's a bit of a wonky thingy, wonky everything with that. So then the Kapua delivery service. So then my next note is about the Kapua delivery service. I know I'm just blazing through these, but there's really not much for me to say too much because I need you to just keep that in the back of your mind for a bit later because I need to talk about the nature of Phantasma in one go. So then there we get the trail to the door for Josette, which is the Kapua delivery service. I liked that. It was It was actually heartwarming. The Kapuas are not exactly my favorite characters. In fact, I have multiple notes of just shut the fuck up, Josette. I literally have a note that just says "shut the fuck up, Josette." Head because of how irritating she was getting at that point. But I digress. Yes, that was a fun. Not only was that a fun mini game, but it was actually a heartwarming story to show that the Kapuas are actually turning their lives around by being couriers. An idea I may or may not be stealing for a specific rewrite series that I may or may not be doing, which may or may not be involving a certain blue bomber. Anyways. uh. So then we get Julia and Joshua's door because Joshua showed up out of nowhere. I gotta say, I love the banquet door. That was such a beautiful touch. But oof, Joshua just being honest with Chloe and just saying, Yeah, no, I never would have fell for you. That hurts me. That just hurts me. Because I actually think they look cute together. I think they're actually cute together, but whatever. The next store I did was, of course, Julia's day off. Julia tries to take a day off, but she's too popular. And she is not used to being popular. It's kind of hilarious in a it's kind of hilarious if you ask me. So then we meet the Lord of Phantasma, who I have already spoiled, so let's just keep going. So then the chapter has us go on split paths, which is awesome. Which is actually where they start that, planting the seeds for that, by the way. They wait until you have 8 party members in order to do that. The 6 that are, I think, yeah, there's 6. So it's Tita, Josette, Chloe, Julia, Mueller, and Joshua, right? So that's cool. So then the next plane that we go through is the return to Lalak, and that's where the battles with, with Garm and them are all done. But this is also where we start running into the major problem with Gilbert. Gilbert is a Jaeger, Ouroboros Jaeger, and he is shit at his job, and he's not funny. He is a get the fuck off my screen character. By the end of the game, I was just so sick of the comedy with him because all of the comedy just fell flat. Because I just was like, dude, go the fuck away. And then when he finally went through the exit portal, I was just like, thank God, I don't have to deal with him again until I have to put up with him in frickin' Cold Steel 4, where he tries to be intimidating, and it's gonna be fucking stupid. But anyways. Uh, so the next door I did was Kilika's new position because I encountered, and because I had encountered Zen by this point, which was awesome. Then I did Annalise's door. Annalise's grandfather is Master. Shit, I didn't write it down. Okay. One sec. Glare again. I'm sorry. God damn it. Thank you. You're right here. I need. Come on, Rain. Where are you? And where's your thing? Background. Ogre power. There we go. Yoon Kafai, who actually has a portrait. If this ad could just fuck off. Did he not show up? Oh. Okay, so he's mentioned. Oh, wow. Huh. Okay, so he's just a background character. But yeah, no. So, Yun Kafai, master of the 8 leaves, 1 blade style, well, is Annalise's grandfather, who also, by the way, trains Reen, the protagonist of the next game we'll be playing. When I heard that, I was like, whoa. Another shows good writing. including writing that can trigger me. The side story client, Shara's door. I don't like to use this word because I feel it's a bit overplayed, but... So I won't, you know what, I won't use it. The word I don't like to use the word triggered because I feel it's overused and overplayed. So we'll say this hit me. This hurt me. Because, well, Shara describes how she was an orphan, she had to fend for herself, and people would often abuse the shit out of her, walk all over her, blah, 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 blah. There's an image on screen during when she's describing the backstory in an inner monologue where she's lying in a pool of her own blood. Or, to be more accurate, there is blood near her head because the implication being that she got the shit beat out of her. that that hurt to look at. That hurt to see. I'm not gonna pretend like it didn't. I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like I'm fine with it, 'cause I'm not. That just oof. Yeah, I had to get up and take a moment. But the rest of it was actually pretty cool, with Aina coming from a rich background and meeting Shara. All of that was good stuff. Including Kurt being a frickin' chess master who thinks 3 moves ahead. No, seriously. He actually picked up on who Aina was and ordered Shara to accept her request because he recognized who because she recognized who Aina was. I love that. That was good stuff. That was damn good stuff. So then we finally get Agate. Tita is all excited. And then I go and I do Horrible Gear Part 2. And oh my god. Oh god. Ah. Yeah, when Agate goes into the guild hall and you see those eyes, you know the kind, the danger eyes that animation likes to pull from time to time. God, that even freaked me out. I was like, whoa, Jesus Christ. Just kind of funny in its own right. Oh, I didn't talk about Kilika's new position. Yeah, I did Zin's door, and Kilika's new position is awesome. Anyways, but yeah, no, I loved that. I loved that it reinforced their idea. Then, after all that's said and done, we learn about Kevin's power, his stigma. Stigmas are effectively just like, basically, think of them as think of them kind of like Gekkai Genkais in Naruto, right? A trait that's passed down through the blood, kind of a thing. It's actually kind of interesting. Or no, actually, that's a bad example. Think of them kind of like semblances in Ruby, for example, right? It's a good way to look at that. It's actually kind of a nice. It actually does play into things. So then I did the Epstein Foundation door, which was awesome. Learning the backstory of that. This is where I was starting to get fed up with Josette. And then we find out Ren, and then Ren reunites. And so she's basically like, I don't want your friendship, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to fight you. And Reese is like, alright, I'll take you down. Templar Sword versus Scythe, let's do this. Do this. Be warned, I will strike you down. And as my note says, reunion with Ren, holy crap, Tita. It's Tita that screams at the top of her lungs, knock it off. Like, I forget exactly how she words it, but she just makes this big, impassioned speech of just, no, Ren, quit lying to yourself, knock it off. Of, you are now among friends. Come on. And admittedly, that actually gets through to Ren somewhat. And considering spoilers, she'll be a playable character in Cold Steel 4. Yeah. 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 Ah, God. If you ever wonder why Tita is one of my favorite characters in this franchise, need I say more? There's my note about legendary Angler Estelle, so let's move on. So then there's Olivier, Prince Olivert, and Mueller's Door, where we learn of a time when Gileath Osborne, when Liberl was visited by the Blood and Iron Chancellor of Erebonia, Chancellor Gileath Osborne. All you need to know about Osborne right now, without spoiling anything, is immediately in this is all in this store, because we're also introduced to Lecter, and I've got opinions about him that I'll save for later. But yeah, Osborne is so powerful of a political opponent that Olivert is completely on the back foot. It's like to the point where he even gets angry. Like there's actually an illustration that I actually held on stream where I was just like, if I ever needed to something to sum up Gilead Osborne, it's right there. It's in that angry expression. It's awesome. But of course, if you think that a little bit of intimidation is going to stop Olivert, then you don't know Olivier Landheim, aka Prince Olivert Rise Arnor. He literally makes a request to have the RSL fly by the airship that Osborne is on, just so he can throw a bouquet of roses and shoot it as a message, effectively saying, "Bring it on, badass." I never thought I'd say that about somebody with roses, but badass. What the hell am I saying? I grew up on Sailor Moon. What the fuck am I talking about? Anyways, moving on. Uh, so, uh, this is when we go to the monochrome school, deal with copies, where we deal with the Ravens and Philip as kind of copies of them. Then there's the Happiness Stone with the kids from the Ruin Orphanage. That was cool. I liked that storyline. A talking dragon. Now, that's interesting. I mean, granted, we had that with Ragnar in Sky 2, but yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I also did the Blue Blanc report, which was actually engaging. Like a Mother, which was... Shit, which one was that? Which one was Like a Mother? Oh, oh, that's right. That was that was the one with Mayor Maribel of Bose, and the misconception that Lila was in love. No, she was just setting up for Maybell's vacation. I like that. I really do. So then I went to the door that talked about Peter Mater's tests, which was just Oh boy. Then I did the door for Richard, which was talking about an instance with his research company. By the way, he tends to be in just a shirt and slacks when he's at work, and that's what he was in when he was brought to Phantasma. Keep that in mind because he was in military uniform when he showed up. Just something to keep in the back of your mind. So then we get the battles with Graham, Karna, Kurt, and Kilika, which are awesome. Then we go to Leshtan Fortress, and we deal with some military guys. We deal with Sid, we deal with Morgan, and then we fight Cassius. Can I just say that was cathartic? That was really cathartic. Sorry, Agate, you weren't able to kind of give give uh, give Cassius a beat down, but that's what New Game Plus is for, you know? So this is when we start to realize the actual nature of Phantasma and that it's effectively making thoughts reality. Which I know sometimes, depending on how you do it, it can be shit. And admittedly, yeah, most times when fiction does it, it tends to be kind of on the crap side. Because, of course, it is, right? But here I think it works because it is it is effectively a form of a holodeck, which is kind of a different thing, right? It's pulling from their minds to generate the illusion, which is nice. By the way, keep that in the back of your mind because, well, Kevin feels responsible for this whole thing, and there's a reason for that. We're almost there. We're almost there. So then we deal with Schwarzritter, and we find out that he's low. After we deal with some other dungeons like the Monochrome School and all that. Which, by the way, yeah, they flat out reveal that it's low the second the dungeon leading part of the chapter leading up, the final part that leads up to him requires there's Joshua. I mean, come on, how much more blatant can you get? Now, admittedly, they were kind of downplaying the connection to Joshua in his earlier scenes, but now it's just like, okay, if you haven't figured it out by now, here you go. So then they go to Kevin's old home, the orphanage where he grew up. And so they deal with that. They go down the secret passage, and that's when. And that's when Kevin reveals that he killed Rufina. Oof. This scene was another one that hit me. Like, it hit me like a ton of bricks because I was just like, oh god. There was a part of me that knew it, that knew the Lord of Phantasma was Rufina, but I didn't want to believe it. Oof, that hit. So then they have their big epic scene where Kevin wants to be punished, Reese is having none of it, and then they descend into Gehenna. The Gehenna dungeon is actually pretty cool. I mentioned earlier that it's basically Kevin having to fight, having to put the souls of those that he killed to rest, which just makes all kinds of sense. And then we encounter Weissman. Weissman tries to do the whole join the dark side, we have cookies thing because that's apparently his shtick, his thing. Kevin, of course, says, no. I mean, it's not really a join the dark side, it's more of just accept your fate kind of a thing, but still, it's like, No. Oh, and that's when the entirety of the others show up through the door and are the cavalry. That was an awesome moment. I loved that. So then we get into that. So then we kick. So then we find out that Rufina's soul was bound to Kevin's stigma. That becomes the final boss. But we're not done because Rufina effectively was making Kevin allow herself to have a proper, not only have a proper goodbye, but for Kevin to finally put all of the pain and suffering that he had been suffering the entire time, all of the crap with the Phantasma, all of the pain that he's been holding on to for 5 long years. He needs to put that away, and Reese isn't going to let him do it alone. Goodbye, Rufina. I mean, it's a crossbow, but they effectively set our soul free. God, that hit. And then the farewells start. Zin and Richard are the first to bid farewell because they want to take the initiative. Then Olivier and Mueller make their exit because Olivier's got to go has got to go has got to go set up Class 7. We'll talk about that in Cold Steel 1. Sharon and Elise make their exit next, and it's cool. It's fine. Teasing Ren a bit. Then Tita and Agate, which was awesome. Agate really shows his growth. Tita shows her growth, and it is amazing. Chloe, Julia, and Sieg leave next, showing their growth, which is awesome. Josette has to irritate me before the end, so whatever. Then there's Ren. We'll never stop chasing you, Ren, because we consider you family at this point. Also solidifying Estelle and Joshua's relationship as a couple. About fucking time is all I gotta say to that. Speaking of that, Estelle and Joshua make their exit. Kevin and Reese resolve to be together. Gilbert has to drive one last irritation into me. And then Kevin reports to his commander, who basically tells him, yeah, sure, you can change your name from Heretic Hunter. You better come up with a good one, or I'm gonna name it for you. And that's it. There's also a little message that gets cut off, that's cut off on the Steam version, which sucks. It is basically saying, thanks for sticking with the Sky Games till the end. There's more stories to come. And who boy is there. Can I just say that this was a nice cap up? This felt like a good epilogue to the Sky trilogy. It really did. It didn't really it didn't really feel like an epic conclusion so much as I said it on the stream, but it effectively a filler episode, which honestly worked for what it was. And to be honest with you, I honestly can't wait to play more. Because Well, next is Cold Steel 1, and the fact that I'm actually going to be able to stream Cold Steel 1. I've dreamed of the moment, and now it's here. I don't know what else to say. I do recommend playing these games. I do. Because playing them doesn't really deliver as many tech issues, I find, unless you do the whole headset thing like I do. But if you're just playing it normally, yeah, you should be fine. But that is it for me. I am out of things to talk about. This is a pretty cool game. A good story, just not as great gameplay. Shrug. All I can say now is I'm going to chop this off. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts, and I will see you guys next time for a game I'm really looking forward to talking about. Wonder how long I'll be yapping about this one because I just spent an hour talking about Sky 3. We'll see. Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one.